We got some good news for single-player games this last week, with a lot of companies seemingly more interested in following the live service model these last couple of years. It seems like we finally hit that extra realization that, well, maybe single-player games can be a nice part of their business too. So in this Sunday Jorgameshow, I want to go over recent gaming news and trends that indicate that single-player games are stronger than ever. We got an update on the new Dragon Age, Elden Ring info will be coming very soon. So a ton to go over, and I will of course answer one of your questions at the end of the video as well. A like would really help me out, and let's go. You can enter my giveaway for any 2021 game of your choice by clicking the link in the pinned comments. These giveaways are for subscribers of the channel only, and if you are the randomly picked winner, I will of course reach out via the email. So, good luck. You likely know about the famous quote from EA that single-player games are dead. Or actually, I don't think they really ever said that, but people familiar with EA's strategy did suggest it. And of course, looking at EA's lineup, you can also kind of see where they're coming from. One person namely said that they saw people spend $15,000 on Mass Effect multiplayer cards, and then later notes, what it means is that the linear single-player AAA game at EA is dead for the time being. This of course was a whole thing. Maybe you remember the Bethesda response during the Game Awards. They kind of made a commercial that started out like this.
Every hour around the globe, neglected gamers feel lonely, shunned by their multiplayer counterparts. But here at Bethesda, we are working toward a solution.
And well, the solution from Bethesda to save Player One seemed to be multiplayer games, because Fallout 76 launched a year after that, Wolfenstein got a co-op game. Like, this video did not age well. And ever since the EA statement, many single-player games proved them wrong, especially exclusives on Nintendo's platform, but of course also mainly on PlayStation, where Sony this last generation really became the king of linear story-driven titles that all sold really well too, like the new God of War, the Naughty Dog titles of course did extremely well, and also brand new IPs like Horizon and recently Ghost of Tsushima sold super well too. And also Ubisoft, with the success of Origins, Odyssey and Valhalla, have shown this last generation that people still want single-player games too. All these titles ditched the multiplayer component Unity introduced earlier this generation. And you can actually look at it from the other way too. Multiplayer games have actually been a way bigger risk than single-player titles. I mentioned Fallout 76 from Bethesda. That the game of course had many issues, but that was mostly because they were trying something completely different. The game at the time of this recording has 7,232 players on Steam, while Fallout 4, the single player game of course, has 16,333. If Fallout 76 was a single-player only game instead, Bethesda would have likely had a bigger success on their hands. Avengers is another game in recent memory where the single-player was actually quite enjoyable, and I really like how each character feels, but the problem was that even during the single-player, they were forcing people into this multiplayer live service model that they weren't even ready to support. It's pretty wild to think that a game based on one of the most popular IPs did not even make back its development cost. While if they likely went for a single player only game, or maybe a linear story driven title with some co-op options, it would have been a way bigger success. Evolve, The Division 2, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, Fable Legends that did not even release, and the list of these live service games goes on. And now this week we learned that Anthem is not getting the reboot a small team at BioWare was working on for these last 2 years. EA did not see the potential and did not want to invest further into this new live service IP, but instead the people working on Anthem will be moved to Dragon Age. We already saw teased a couple of times in like developer videos with some concept art here and there. And the new Dragon Age will, by the way, be a single player only title. Jason Schreier on Bloomberg had a ton of EA stories up this last week, including the Anthem one, but also one about the new Dragon Age game. He notes that the game was previously designed with a heavy multiplayer component, and then he continues later on in the article, in recent months it has transformed into a single player only game after EA was stung by a recent multiplayer flop. And he is of course talking about Anthem here, but the article also notes that actually the success of Jedi Fallen Order, which sold more than 8 million copies in 1.5 months after launch, helped a lot with this too. Like EA now finally sees that they can still make a ton of money with a single player only game, and that multiplayer titles, especially for a studio known for single player games, isn't always a safe bet. So the new Dragon Age will be similar compared to the previous games, which is kind of strange to say because all these Dragon Age games did pretty well. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at the moment. But it's still a huge win, and you would think that this will push the game back a lot though, right? If they're basically changing core elements. In 2019, EA had the new Battlefield for fiscal year 22, so the end of 2021, and that game is on track, and the new Dragon Age planned for fiscal year 23. So likely the end of 2022. Not sure if they can still hit that, especially with the pandemic, of course, delaying a lot as well. So it will be a while before we see the new Dragon Age, but at least it will be a single player only title. And speaking of more single player focused games, we should hear more about Elden Ring before the end of March. Jeff Grubb, who has been right many times before, notes on his podcast, sure, it could slip to April, but it will be rather sooner than later. So hopefully we will finally learn more about this open world From Software game with the help of the writer from Game of Thrones, of course, and get some new footage, because we've seen this teaser trailer now many times. But yeah, the point is that single player games are really bigger than ever, with Resident Evil 8 and Ratchet & Clank coming very soon, Horizon 2 still being planned for this year, of course the new God of War, Final Fantasy VII Remake announced a brand new expansion for PS5. Like, if you look at that recent state of play, we almost only got trailers for new single player games, with Kena of course as one of the highlights. And also interesting is that even companies like Rockstar, that seem to be really focused on their multiplayer offering over their single player component for years now, especially during the post-launch, will actually still be bringing a ton of single player content to their games too. The most recent big GTA Online update namely included a heist you could also play solo, and actually more players completed the heist alone than with a squad. And Rockstar also said that future GTA Online updates will have more of that single player content. So even with multiplayer online components, we are seeing that single player stuff is still very important. And we're basically seeing this happen a lot of times, right? Something new and popular catches the eyes of all the publishers, so they all go try and chase that, only to find out that it's really hard to mimic the success of the few games that do make money, so then they go back to what did work out for them, which in this case is single player games. And then we also figure out that, hey, the success of this one thing doesn't mean the end of the other thing. And sure, moving forward, we will still see a lot of companies try and attempt a multiplayer live service game, but I think less at the cost of the single player titles. And I said it multiple times before, but I really think that Sony will go down this path this PS5 generation, so make multiplayer variants of their single player IPs, while of course still offering the story-driven experience. Ghost of Tsushima Legends is really a great example of that, and we of course also saw it with recent Naughty Dog games, where like Last of Us and Uncharted also had a multiplayer component. I'm really curious how the sort of like fall of the live service games and just a lot of these titles just not doing well will impact titles like Suicide Squad from Rocksteady. I mean, that game went into development when everyone was trying to make their own destiny, and now with like Avengers struggling big time, I'm curious if they are like looking at their game and maybe not going full on live service, but more story driven instead. Something that studio is of course more known for, just like Crystal Dynamics coming off of the Tomb Raider games, going and making a multiplayer live service game. They clearly weren't ready for that. So will be very interesting to follow that. Your takes are of course more than welcome in the comments down below. You can also leave a question in the comments that I might answer in the next Sunday video. And last week I got 3 questions about Horizon Forbidden West, so I thought let's mash them together and answer them all here. Let's start with the one from Ashvini and throw the one from Amar in there too. Do you believe that Horizon Forbidden West will be released in July, and is it possible that God of War releases in 2021 and Horizon in 2022? I would say no to both. We know that Horizon is planned for the second half of 2021. We did learn this week that there was already an internal delay, and thanks to COVID, everything is getting delayed. I still think that Ratchet is a great example. It was supposed to be a launch window title, so March, and now it comes out in June. So if you like look at that, apply it to Horizon, I think we're looking at a November window for Horizon, and God of War was never realistic for 2021. I'm not sure why they said it, just to get us hyped up. I think that game is 2022. Pretty obvious, and like Jason already notes that as well, as you see right here. So, I mean, it's obvious, but I think that is what is going to happen. Horizon will be first. That game came out in 2017. We're actually today in the 4-year anniversary. So, yeah. Congratulations to you. 4 years already, damn. And God of War came out in 2018, so they've been working on Horizon 2 for way longer. When do you think we will hear more about Horizon Forbidden West? I think it will be a while. I think we will really only hear about it when it's really close to launch. Especially now with COVID, they want to make sure that they can hit a date. And I really don't know if talking about a game very early before launch. I mean, sure, they announced it to hype up the PS5. But now that the PS5 is out and nobody can buy it and they will sell out throughout the year without even talking about any game, I don't know if they need to. So I really think that we will hear more about Forbidden West when we're super close to launch, or if Sony is going to do a big summer E3 type show that they did last year as well, where we will see God of War and Horizon again. So I think it will be a long time, and I really think that Forbidden West will be near the tail end of this year. They're trying to do everything to get the game out, I think, this year. And with COVID, everyone working from home, that might be challenging. So, guess we have to wait a little longer. But when we know more, I will, of course, let you know here. More Sunday videos. Just subscribe. Would really help me out, and then you will be up to date on all the content. A like on the video would, of course, really help me out. And don't check out my previous video on open world games that are coming out in 2021, including Horizon and a ton of other titles. You can watch that video by clicking on the screen. For now, I will speak to you next time, and goodbye.